I'm so glad to introduce our speakers today. I met Jennifer and Tabitha when I participated in a workshop that they did through Innovate Springfield. And it was all about writing and storytelling and, just always putting your subject, your audience first instead of talking about yourself. I think that was such a great tip that I got from them. And it really helped me a lot in a rewrite that I was working on. And so after the workshop, I talked to Jennifer and Tabitha and said, hey, we would love you to come and present for Women in Communications, because this is what our members do every day. Whether you're writing for the web or for a brochure or for a social post or for a press release or an internal report, the tips that they have to share are just so awesome and just hands-on. Like you can take them right back to work and put them into motion today. So I think that was one of the things that really grabbed me about their presentation and why I'm so excited that we could bring them here. Jennifer is actually here in Springfield with us. She's in the Department of Teacher Education at UIS, and she's the editor of the JULTR Journal. And the most recent volume is about improving lives for girls and women. So how awesome is that for us that she can be here with us today? She has a podcast, and I'm going to put the link to her podcast in the chat. You might want to check that out and follow her. And Tabitha Mesmore is here all the way from Kent State. She just got named the assistant director of LaunchNet. So congratulations to her, and how lucky are they to have her in that position. And she has a background in writing, marketing, and teaching to help us think creatively and innovatively. And she uses those skills all across the Kent State University landscape. So we're so thrilled to have them here with us today. And I'm going to go ahead and turn us over into Jennifer and Tabitha's wonderful hands.
Thank you so much, Christy and Sarah. We're honored to be here with you today.
Yes, I'm going to get our presentation all up. And of course, I don't know, it randomly went to the end. If you can read fast, you saw it all backwards now.
Now let's have a quiz. So we're going to talk to you today about copywriting and writing in general. And if you have any questions whatsoever, put them in the chat. I will monitor the chat when Tabitha's talking and vice versa. And Christy will also be helping us. So if you have any pressing questions now, please feel free to type them in, or if anything comes up during.
Because I know I can never remember them when we wait to the end. So
right.
And hopefully you all are ready to have a few laughs this lunchtime too, because that's kind of what Jennifer and I do.
I mean, we'll try to make it interesting, right?
Hopefully.
All right, so we were going to do some introductions, but as Sarah and Christy suggested, we have them in the chat. So please, if you haven't already done so, just put your name and what you do into the chat. And this is our agenda. So we're going to talk to you about understanding your audience and how to incorporate that knowledge into your writing. We're going to go through some tips and tricks with regard to writing and copy editing. We're going to go through some fun examples so you can kind of test your knowledge. And we're going to do some Q&A.
Yeah. And maybe even if we have time, look at something you've got.
Yes.
For the brave ones in the group.
The very brave ones. Happy birthday, Amy.
Oh, happy birthday, Amy. Yay. Yeah. So you all are doing introductions in the chat, but I would love if we have a few minutes just in, 30 seconds to everybody kind of share why you're here. What is there something about this that, you are interested in specifically, or is there something specifically you are wanting to learn today or wanting to take away? And for us, that's always interesting to know, so that we can make sure we bring that for you. So if there's something specific you're thinking you need as far as your writing goes, or anything,
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if anybody wants to shout out why they're here
them to
or
do
any
that too.
specific needs you have, or put them in the chat since you've already told us who you are. Christy has said, I need reminders to focus on the audience, not the company. What are their main points?
Pain
And
points.
then, oh,
Yes.
what are their pain points? And then how to edit that down.
Yes. I know. I feel like that's always the thing, always the hard part. Yeah.
So does anyone else want to give us a heads up in terms
Sure.
of what you desire from us today?
I'll share.
Awesome.
Sarah.
I feel like I don't know, a pretty good writer, but I feel like you can always learn something new, right? So I worked in PR for about 10 or 12 years, and then I switched to marketing. So I feel like maybe my writing skills could be refreshed, and always I write still, but not quite as much, right? So interested to hear what your tips are. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks,
Thank you.
Sarah.
Ooh, we have something from Brandy. I'm here to learn how to be a more efficient copywriter. I tend to overthink things.
You're in the right group.
Ooh, okay. Shelley, it's the blank page that kills me. Once I get a start, I'm fine, but it's the blank page that gets me every time. I'll just share one of my strategies because I'm more of an academic writer. I don't do marketing writing, but I do, traditional academic writing and publishing, articles, books. So what I do to combat the blank page is typically, let's say I'm writing a piece right now on populism and multiculturalism. So I will look back in the things that I've written previously, and I'll find something like a little kernel, and I'll copy and paste that onto my blank page. And that at least gives me a place to start, and then I'll massage over it. So I'm not writing, self-plagiarizing or anything like that. But it's always good for me, at least as a strategy, to find something I've written similar so that I can kind of bounce off that. And it alleviates my writer's block at least.
Yeah. And that does help, that whole blank page syndrome. I agree that. So I not only do marketing writing, I work for a program within the university where we work with entrepreneurial students and staff. So a lot of my writing in that role is more marketing and copywriting focused. I'm also a doctoral student, so I also do academic writing, like Jennifer was talking about. And also it's very hard to get started on, a paper like that. So a lot of times I'll do something similar and take like the quotes, things that I've jotted or highlighted. And I'm like, okay, these are the things that are going to spur my thinking and just get me like going and start in the middle, basically. And I have a 14-year-old who also is like, oh, I don't want to write. I'm like, just write something. You can go back and fix it. I tell my 14-year-old, because I also used to teach writing, said, start with your shitty first draft. So the first draft is always allowed to be shitty. So you all have permission now from us and Anne Lamott. Freshmen in college love hearing their instructor say shitty. So
I would agree there.
So as Christy kind of alluded to, and we touched on, this idea of understanding your audience, I feel is like really the biggest kind of foundational piece to any kind of writing, no matter if you're doing academic writing, you're doing marketing writing, you're doing, business writing, if it's a letter or a brochure or anything, is really thinking about who is this for and what do they need? Just kind of the same way that we said at the very beginning, we want to know why you're here. We want to know what you need so we can try to give it to you.
We have a related,
go ahead. Yeah.
We have a related question from Michelle. I am hoping to get some tips on how to adapt the same topic to talk to different generations. For example, on social media, going from Facebook for our older audience to change the wording to relate to the younger audience on Instagram. And in the last session that Tabitha and I did for Innovate Springfield, we suggested having little focus groups with a subset of the target audience. So if you can find some young people, some Instagram folks to,
Interns
to
are
look,
great for Instagram.
yes, to look at your content and to give you some tips, also, who are you looking at on Instagram? Who are you following that might give you some things to look at, some models for verbiage?
Yes, for sure. And I know it's so tempting, again, as the mom of a teenager, it's so tempting to try and use like hip language that the kids are using. And I work at a college, so, I hear it, but I'm like, it doesn't come off right when it's not genuine, it's not authentic, right? So that's why I hire students to do like my Instagram for office, because then it's more peer to peer, right?
Yes, that's brilliant. And authenticity is really, that's one of our foci in our talk.
Yes. And your brand voice, like Christy, you said, you're right. You have to know who you are as a brand, but also you want to think about who that audience is. If you're a business, who's that focus, who's that target customer that you're talking to, because you might not need to adjust your language as much as you think you do. If you're like, yes, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but really the people who are predominantly buying my services are 30 to 50. They're on Instagram, but they don't talk like kids on Instagram. They don't necessarily want to see that on it. The language is probably fine to kind of be the same on Facebook and Instagram, right? So understanding that, especially with business and kind of those audience focused pieces, that I always tell my entrepreneurs, it's not that you're not going to sell to anybody who's like going to walk up to you with money in their hand, right? You're not going to turn them away. But when you're thinking about your marketing, you really have to think about who's that ideal customer that you really want to be talking to specifically. And that will help you weed out some things a lot of times to say, okay, I know who I'm talking to, I know who I'm writing for. So
we also have another comment, looking for fresh ideas to tell stories on social media. We have amazing stories to share and need to be clear, concise, and engaging.
Yeah. And a social too, especially with, on places like Instagram where you don't have a lot of space, you want to do that kind of headline writing where, I'm giving enough information that it makes me want to read more, but not so much that I want to click the link and I want to go read more and go to your website and see what you really do, right? Did you have anything else for our audience, Jen?
Nope.
Questions about that? Does that make sense to people? And I know that's the hardest thing to remember because, and that was the other thing I was going to say, when you're working on your website, especially, you're redoing it, you're putting it up for the first time. It's so easy to go, this is our company. This is what we do. This is how we do it. This is why we're awesome. Right. And you look and you're like, wow, that's all just about me or us. And not, you want to think about, why is this compelling for your audience? You want to always be thinking about with that end in mind of that action step that you want them to take. Right.
Well, let me ask you a question, Tabitha.
Yeah.
What if I don't know who my audience is? What if I'm just starting? What should I do in that case?
That's a good question. Couple things I would say. One, find somebody to help you. But thinking about, because really a successful business, realistically, you can't just build it and they will come in real life. So you need to think about who has the problem you're trying to solve, right? Who has the need that you're trying to fill, and being intentional about that and play with it. Like, do some surveys, survey people that you think, test your hypothesis, right? Just like a scientist, say, I think that it's these people, kind of demographically or psychographically, who need this service or product. So I'm going to go talk to some of them. You know, if we say this a lot, because a lot of our entrepreneurs obviously are college students, since we're on a college campus, and we're like, and they always want to make stuff for college students because that's what they are. And we're like, well, you've got, you know, thousands more of them right here. Go ask them, you know, do they really need this? And how much will they pay? And where do they find content like this? You know, and even so, yeah, a research group, like we were saying before, or even just informal conversations. A lot of times, you know, it's in a group like this, it's in a networking group. Like, I think that, you know, women who do this kind of a job are going to be interested. Well, here's a bunch of women who do these kinds of jobs. Ask them.
And I'll just
and
say,
listen to customers when they say what their problem is. That's the other piece of the understand your audience, is then you can kind of steal their words. And, you know, we all love to be understood as customers. So I'm going to go to somebody's website, and if they're using the same words I use to describe the problem they're trying to solve, I'm like, oh yeah, you get it. So use the words specifically that those potential customers are using to connect with them.
yep, that's a great point. And I'll just add a little bit. Testimonials are great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Christy says emails and messages from customers. Perfect. Yeah.
And peer review. So before you put something out there, have a critical friend in your pocket, in your network, that you can vet things through, right? And people from this group will be a great test audience for any content.
Exactly. Because, you know, that's the hardest part about writing, is you do it by yourself and you do it in your head. And sometimes you forget to write down something that you know that the other person doesn't know.
Yes.
So that's a great time to say, oh, wait, how did you get from here to here? I didn't see how that worked.
Yeah, I agree. Extra eyes will be to your benefit. Sometimes when
Always
you're
good.
writing, as Tabitha said, your brain is correcting things that you know should be there, and your eyes are not catching the little errors. So peer review is really important.
I'm a great copy editor for everyone else, but I can't do it for myself.
And you know what? We should mention that Tabitha is the copy editor for the journal, the
Yes.
Urban JULTR.
Thanks. It's my side
Go to our
hustle.
website, check it out. All right, things to avoid. Tell us about the royal we, Tabitha. What is that?
Oh, this one that I always put it first because it's one of my personal pet peeves. Especially small companies, entrepreneurs, you know, we're like compelled to do this royal we, especially like on a website or in a brochure, like, we provide the best services for da 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 da, and we do this and we do that. And I'm looking at somebody going, I know for a fact that there's only one person doing this work. Who's we? And we feel like it sounds formal, and it sounds like that's what we're supposed to do in business. And, you know, I'm like, if there's only you, it's okay to say it's okay to say me. I was shocked even coming back to school and reading research papers, you know, in journals, and people are like, I did this and I did this research. And I was like, we're using I in research papers now? Oh my gosh. It blew my mind.
I agree. So, you know, we kind of switch from passive voice to active voice when we do research.
I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, and the avoidance of the royal we kind of comes back to the idea of authenticity, right? Being authentic and telling your
Exactly.
truth in your writing.
Exactly. And, you know, especially with entrepreneurs, I always say, you know, there's a reason people pay money to buy things from small businesses, you know, because if I wanted to buy a candle at Target, I could go buy a candle at Target. But if I want a hand done candle, I want to know it's a person or two people, you know. If I wanted generic copywriting, I'd go to Target.
Right. And we want the story too,
Yeah.
right? We want the origin story of the company and the partnership and the relationships and how you got started and why you're passionate about this thing that you're doing.
Right. And even when you are a group, even when you are a we, who is the we? You know, like, distinguish that. I noticed somebody on here was like from the Visitors Bureau, and for some reason that stuck in my head as one of those, like, you know, that's one of those things where you could really be tempted to say, we provide blah, 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 but then, you know, either use the town, like use Springfield as a active noun, like as the subject of a sentence, or you could say, you know, all of us that work at the Bureau are from here and we're so excited to share our city with you, or something like that, right? Oh, Christy, I love that.
Oh,
Your
that is
founders
great.
talked about how they grew up in the field. That's awesome. And see, that's such a connection. Now I'm like, I want to go buy flowers from them. I don't want to just buy them from Acme. Jen, you want to talk about typos?
Well, we don't want to have any typos ever, right? Because we may be judged harshly by potential customers. So again, always good to have peer review and somebody vet your stuff. Hiring a copy editor, or if you know somebody that can help you for free, even better, but it is worth the cost. Design considerations, things to avoid, and we'll get into this when we look at the examples, but it's important not to have two different fonts. It's important to pay attention to accessibility in terms of font size and style. For those of us who perhaps wear bifocals or trifocals or have
As we go back
issues
and forth
with
between.
with teeny fonts, and even if a font is too light, that is going to turn some people off, you know. So you need to know your audience. Colors, also an important consideration. So you want to make sure that you don't have too many colors. We're going to show you an example of this soon. Also, make sure that your colors go well together.
And appeal to your audience. We're going back to that audience thing. You know, just because you love pink and yellow doesn't mean your audience loves pink and yellow.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
That's
they're
right.
an earth tone crowd.
And be careful not to use any photos without attribution. Don't just pull things off Google Images. Those could be copyrighted images.
Mm-hmm.
So
The last thing you want is, oh crap, and I just had it, now it's gone. The Getty. The last thing you want is a mean letter from Getty. Trust me, because you will
yes.
get one.
So taking your own shots is ideal because there's no problem there. But Flickr is a great site, and there are various levels that you can select, and there are images that you can grab there that are openly accessible.
Unsplash is
Open
another one.
sourced.
Yeah, open source. Look for that Creative Commons attribution too. They also have a site. And you know, really though, a lot of times your own are the best ones because that's real people. It's not, you know, so obviously like, oh, well, they took that from. I've seen that picture in a bajillion different brochures, you know.
Right. Oh, and Tabitha Christie says, check a color contrast tool for fonts and backgrounds. Yes.
Good.
Be careful about crowding of images and fonts. Do you want to talk about white space, Tabitha, or is that?
Yeah, we can talk about white space. We probably have it on our tips too, but talking about it more than once is good. But yeah, God, if you don't leave some white space, you need white space. Whether we're talking about a website, a brochure, a postcard, any of those things that you're kind of putting together, you need space for your eyes to rest. Otherwise, it's like overwhelming. And I mean, we've all probably seen one of those, like a postcard or even a PowerPoint, right? Where there's like just a big hunk of text right in the middle. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm not reading that. See ya, bye.
Yep, exactly. Also, be careful about changing tenses. Make sure you have one tense throughout the content.
Consistency is the key.
Consistency.
Yes.
You want to take this one, Tabitha?
We went from the nots to the to dos, right? Yes. So we kind of touched on this already. Use I. You're allowed to use I if it's just you in your business. If you're, you know, a service provider and it's just you, tell me. I want to know. Again, if you are a we, tell me who we is. You know, that's exciting. Like if you're a husband and wife team who run a business together, I want to know that, because I want to know how you do it. How you don't kill each other every day.
Mhm.
And that goes along with telling your story, which we did talk about too. So, that's the reason, especially for smaller businesses, but even larger businesses, like look at Walmart. I mean, Walmart still uses, they're like giant, right? But they still try sometimes, I think, to bring in the Sam Walton story and da da da. I don't know that they do a great job of it now, which is part of, I think, why they're not doing as great. But trying to stay true to those roots and stay connected to that story that they're telling about their brand. That's important. And that brings people in, because we're humans and we're storytelling animals. We love stories.
So by show your process, what does that mean, Tabitha? Tell us how you're different from other businesses.
Yes.
Show us how you make what you do. Show pictures of these processes. What else?
Mm-hmm. I love, and this is especially good for social, is show the background.
Ooh.
Show stuff in the middle and messy, and your staff unpacking boxes of brand new product, or we just had you have your nice pictures of your gala and your big party. I want, if go to our Instagram to see the after effects pictures.
That
right?
would be
I
so
wanna see
interesting. Yes.
picking up the trash, how trashed is that venue after the party, right? Everybody taking all this stuff and stuffing it in their car that people didn't take with them, that's fun. And that's that authenticity, and that's that connection.
Yes.
Because it's a fun story, you hear so often, especially on social, we only see everybody's rosy, beautiful, made up, pictures. Well, show us the grungy stuff too.
Yeah, show us the mess. We want to see the mess.
Yeah. I'm all about the mess. And testimonials. We did talk about testimonials because, we like to know that other people like you. And other people have done this before. Reviews are great, but stars only don't really tell you a story, but a paragraph from Susie, who was desperate for help, but you helped her fix the problem she had. That's amazing. Using those testimonials, getting those word of mouth referrals, rewarding customers for that, that's worth it.
Yep. What do you mean by use customers' words back to them?
So that's what we touched on that earlier too, of this idea of when you're talking to customers, or they're sending you emails and they're sending you thank you notes and saying, oh my gosh, thank you for that thing. Thank you for helping me do this, whatever. Say, hey, can I use that testimonial? But then also, kind of just lift a few of those words. How did they describe the problem they had? Because probably someone else is going to describe it the same way.
And that raises a question, Tabitha. So how do I need to get that person's permission if I'm quoting them? If I'm just using a couple words, should I ask their permission? What's the guidance here?
In general, I would say, depending on how well you know this customer, if you're going to do a whole quote, a whole kind of testimonial, for sure you want to, ask them, give them a heads up, because, you don't want them to come to your website and be surprised, oh my gosh, my name's on there. Or maybe they don't want to use their full name. They just want to use a fake name, or they want to use, their first name and their last initial or something, or, my customer from Springfield.
And maybe give them the option of creating their own pseudonym if they so desire. Yeah,
exactly. Because of course, you want to be kind to your customers and keep them in good graces. I would say, especially if you're doing kind of some market research, and more than one person is just kind of describing a problem a certain way, or it's not specifically applicable to like the process that you used or something like that, I don't think you need to worry too much about attributing that. Or, you know, again, if you're using them in other contexts, you could give them a heads up. Hey, I really loved how you worded this thing, especially if it's new or different. You know, use that. Like I have clients who come in and say, oh, I just loved how that you guys connected these dots for me. And I was like, I love that. Can I use that? And they're like, yeah. So I'm going to use it the next time I have to describe a thing that we do in our office, because it's hard to describe. You know, I'll say, you know, students love that we connect the dots for them. Oh, yes, you're right, Sarah. Because in healthcare, you definitely want to be very careful with that HIPAA stuff. For sure. And again, that conversational tone, you know, like I think at this point we're all used to, you know, we're used to websites, we're used to all of these ways that we communicate, that they don't need to be super formal. I was doing marketing for a small company, and I would literally get into arguments with the president of the company because he would like want to send out this letter to customers. And I was like, this is great, except that nobody wants to read a letter that's, and it makes it longer usually to be formal. And I'm like, you're talking about their plumbing. Like, I don't need you to be, you know, like using this kind of formal language when you're talking about my boiler. Like, just get to the point. Like, we know it doesn't matter if, you know, how many degrees you have. Just tell us that you are the best at fixing boilers.
Right.
And I want to come fix your boiler.
I'm just gonna point out the time, Tabitha.
Oh, yes.
12:37.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, well, and
Let's
that
look
was
at
our
some
tips and
examples.
tricks. So yeah, we've got examples.
So
And
we are, oh, sorry.
go ahead. And I was going to say we have examples, but also, you know, if we do have time, if you have something, you know, a particularly good or bad website or something of yours, maybe this is the time to get it ready in case we do have time.
Yes.
Hint, hint.
Yes. If you're feeling brave.
Yes.
So we ask that you look at this website, just take a look at it, and we're going to critique it. So take a moment.
Think about all those tips and tricks we just talked about.
Yeah, and then apply them. Is there anything good about this website? Is there anything bad? And give us some details. And maybe we should start by putting some feedback in the chat, and then we can discuss. What do you think, Tabitha?
Yeah, that sounds good.
But if anybody wants to shout out, that's fine too. So let's
yeah.
let's just take a minute and just give it a look. Colors are not friendly to my eyes. I would agree. I would agree. It's very dated.
Oh, yes.
The contact is not good. Christy, what do you mean by that? Contrast. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yes, it's definitely like we made this in 1999 and have not updated it.
It looks spammy. It sure does.
Yes, look, and that's
like,
what we associate that with spammy now. Yeah.
The inventors of spam went on this website. And
everybody always says that he looks like a magician.
Yes, he does. And you know, so do you see Perceptionology 101? Perceptionality looks like it's trademarked. Look at the font size and color right under that. I cannot even read that. I'll just tell you that right now. Can you read that?
No, I can't.
All of it's hard to read, Sarah says. Yeah. So this is a case in point of what not to do. Christy says,
oh, Christy, yeah, I love that. Go ahead.
Fonts are all over. The condensed fonts are not good for screen, but I don't know what he does by the writing. That's true. We have no idea what this is.
That's the bottom line. If I can't look at this and know what you do, that's a problem. Because that's literally the point of your website.
Right. So this is aesthetically unpleasing, and the content is inadequate. let's say.
Yeah. Yeah, and little cutouts of, are not always great.
Oh,
Of just your head and one shoulder.
Amy is sharing a website. Should we look at this?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Thank you, Michelle. That one always gets me every time, that his tagline is literally problematic in light of his website.
Yes. It's also case in point of irony.
Yes.
It would be fun to see a rewrite and redesign, a good classroom project. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Do you want to go to the next one, or do you want to go to the visit?
Let's go to one more while I pull up visit. How's that?
Okay. Okay, cool. All right. So take a look at this one and just type into the chat what you think. Oh, we'll provide feedback, Amy, for sure. And we encourage all of our visitors to do the same. This one looks spammy too.
Shred it. Oh, that's funny.
The
Sorry.
font is too light. It's
Mhm.
hard to read. It looks incomplete. White space is good, but the line length is too long.
Mhm. Can you tell what they do? Somewhat. That doesn't really, and see, that doesn't help either. It's almost more frustrating, right?
I'm confused.
To maybe kind of know what you do, but not really.
I'm confused as to what a faith-based residential executive education program is.
It's actually not. And I know this org, and that's not even a good description of it.
So they don't live there?
Mm-mm.
Huh.
It's not like it's, like come live in our dorms.
That's what it seems like.
Right? Yeah, I agree.
People come into your website from a keyword search, so assume they know nothing about you. Yeah, it's a great point.
Exactly. And, and that is one of the most generic images ever, right?
Yeah, a better image might be people doing stuff.
Right.
In this institute or whatever it is.
Yeah. Heck, I would even take a picture of people, like a static, like we're all standing taking a group photo picture over that.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to do a new share to our Visit Springfield. So we can go look at that. Let's look at Visit Springfield.
Ooh, I already like the picture.
There's motion happening. It's a nice image. This makes me want to go to Springfield.
And I love the interactive aspect that you can click to submit your own
photos.
photos.
Oh,
That's pretty
yeah.
awesome.
And this is so obviously somebody's actual photo. Like you didn't swipe this from somebody's stuff. I would look at sorry, words not working. I like how you have the motion, but then be careful when just be careful in that, because then it looks kind of broken up here.
So let me just share from the chat. I was going to ask you, Amy, what platform you use. They use CrowdRiff.
Oh, I don't know that one. That's a new one.
Source our guest photos for use.
CrowdRiff, RIFF.
Yep.
Cool. I'm going to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
I love hearing about new tools.
So should we click around on this a little bit and check it out?
And I love this. See, I love this. This says summer festival and event to me. That's exactly. Tag your photos. Thinking Lincoln.
It's clever. Let's look at the writing on this Lincoln bit.
I like this. This is that conversational tone that we were talking about.
Amy,
it sounds
do you
like a
want
person
my,
talking to me.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Amy, do you want my critique of the punctuation? Okay. When you think of Springfield, Illinois, you think Abe Lincoln, and why wouldn't you? That I would put a question mark there and stop it. And then start new sentence, he's our most favorite resident.
Yep. I would then also be sure to check our 5 must-see Lincoln sites blog as a separate paragraph so it stands out.
Yep.
And maybe make it a link
Yep,
so I can click right on it.
I agree. And then I would maybe put a space. I would maybe put the Lincoln quote under the Lincoln photo. I don't know. And I would,
Yeah, I was
I would
thinking that too.
italicize, I'm sorry to talk over you. I would italicize the quote, maybe take the quotation marks off because it's implied, and then Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree, Christy. Set the quote off with italics. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? If you make any of these changes, I think Tabitha and I would love to look at the revision.
For
you know?
sure.
Yeah.
I thought
All
I
right.
saw LaShonda's name. I know we worked on some stuff with her.
Let me look back in the chat and see if there's anything I'm missing.
Explore our itineraries. Bring the whole family for fun and adventure and make it a friends. There's friends. I don't know. This is Springfield, Virginia, Ross. Now, see, all of these, I would make these all links. I want to click on the best of Springfield. I want to click on Abe's Perfect Journey.
Yeah.
And maybe if you can, I know sometimes depending on your maker of your website, like this has good spacing with the balance with the photo, but then this has like weird space here.
And I'm wondering,
Moving that
Friends Getaway, should that be possessive?
Yeah, I was going back and forth on that one too, because that's
Think
one
about
of those.
it. It might require an
Yeah.
apostrophe, S apostrophe, right?
Or friends apostrophe. Yeah, it can go. That one could go a couple different ways, I feel like, and that would make me personally, if I was writing it and going,
I would
I
want to
could read
revise
that
it.
a couple different ways. So I would just rewrite it, make it different.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're, I mean, Tabitha and I are debating it. So, you know,
Yeah,
a getaway for friends.
yeah, exactly. That's what
Grab your
I would
friends for a
just-
getaway. That's perfect, Christy.
Yeah. So I would just like, because I'm the kind of person that will get hung up on that.
Yes.
And then I'm not paying attention to what you're actually trying to tell me.
You see how much time we've spent on this? And we're not looking at the website. You know what? So yeah, I would definitely revise this.
Yes.
And I really like Christy's suggestion. Tabitha, what does that arrow go to? Is that arrow clickable?
What did
And
I don't know if
is
I
it-
clicked on the arrow or on the picture.
And is it clear what, Amy, feel free to shout out. Is it clear what those arrows are for and what they do?
Are they just decorative?
Yeah. Go down, go to the bottom one. What does that do?
Oh, that does go to the itineraries.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So that's unclear. And I wouldn't necessarily have clicked on that if we weren't specifically looking for. And see, this is a good we. We know planning a visit can be overwhelming. That's a good we. You're excited. And I like that you're talking to me. You're excited.
All right, I'm just going to keep note of the time. We have 11 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So do we want to finish out the presentation and then address questions?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and then see if I can get back to. I don't think we had a lot left in our slides, but
No.
there we go. Okay, so we're going to skip the next example. Okay. Next steps. So we don't have time for other sharing, but thank you for sharing the Visit Springfield site. I think that was fun.
Yeah.
If you would like to chat, type in the chat a couple takeaways that you have from today, and at least creating a writing goal for yourself based on what you learned. So if it's go back and make sure all my links are linked right, go back and make sure my font, I don't have 5 different fonts on my website or in my brochure, make sure there's enough white space.
And if you're struggling to think of 3 takeaways from today, can you combine the takeaway with the writing goal? Like maybe
Oh, heck
what's
yeah.
what's one thing that you learned today
I like that.
that you can turn into a goal for yourself? And please, we'll read through some of the comments in the chat, but we want to give you our contact information. I think that's on the next one. Oh,
Yep.
And we want your questions too.
Yes, but we'll
So
give you
do all
contact
that.
information and you can ask us questions.
Yeah.
Chrissy, I love get messy. Get backgrounds, humanize and customize. Christy, I have a question for you. Harder to do when remote? Harder to do what specifically?
It's really hard for me to get like behind the scenes and,
Mm.
what our designers are doing today. And here's what's going on in the farm fields when I'm hundreds and thousands of miles away. And I do ask the teams, to send me things.
That's not what they're thinking about all
Exactly.
day. Yeah.
They're doing their work and they're doing their thing. And, but I do know that that's what resonates. If I post something like that on social, if I do happen to get something. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I think I've read some things about like starting like employee groups where you say, hey, we're putting you 5 on a committee. And as you see things happening on the farms or in the workplace,
Mhm.
grab and share and
Yeah.
maybe getting people engaged, finding a way
You could even use like what they're doing on the Springfield site, have set up maybe some digital thing like CrowdRiff or something where, and have like ambassadors of, they switch out maybe each month somebody gets to do it and kind of, they get to not pick flowers for a couple hours and just walk around and take pictures or
like maybe have them kind of, or even kind of like position it like it's a takeover or something.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I have a quick question, Christy, regarding your question.
Yeah.
Does the business ever have interns?
They actually do. They're really good about sharing every single hire. So we get emails every day about what's going on.
Okay.
And
Well, I'm wondering if one of the jobs for the interns could be to take pictures maybe on a weekly basis or something and then send them to you.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love that. And maybe even creating an internship just for that, because
Ooh, yes. And maybe they could do some blog posts or some writing for you and you can just
Right.
jazz it up.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
Because that's exactly the kind of stuff that marketing students need internships in, because they know how to use social media. They don't always know how to do it for business.
That you just brought up a good point too, with both of you being in the positions that you're in. I wonder if any of our attendees today could use an intern to help work on a project. And like, would you want people to reach out about that? Like for your students, are you ever looking for project work? Not specifically for what I do, but since you'd have to be in Ecuador, but but unless I want to travel.
I have
But
a lot of international students, but I don't know any in Ecuador.
is that a good thing though for our attendees to consider, like reaching out to their local colleges?
For sure. I
departments?
know that we get those kinds of things a lot, and our career department, usually check with your career department at whatever your local college is. They usually have a process, and students are always looking for stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a great idea.
Sarah and Michelle both just posted questions for you guys.
Yeah.
So I'm going to mute myself.
Oh my gosh, Sarah, I love your question. Jen, can I tell the story? I love telling the story of how we met.
Please do.
So I was a student actually at the University of Akron. I think I was still finishing my bachelor's. I'm not sure I started my master's yet. And we had a TEDx local event around women, a TEDx women event at my university. And Jennifer was one of the speakers because she was teaching at a local college at the time in Ohio. And I remember I think I even sat at the same table as you because I was like, oh my gosh, she is so cool. I have got to meet her. And then you did your talk and I was like, okay, I have to screw up my courage and like go introduce myself to her because she is so cool. And I did. And I was so proud of myself because I was like a returning adult student. I was like so out of like the whole college thing. And so I was like, I just need to like put myself out there and meet people, but I'm an introvert really. So it's hard for me to do that. And so I did. And I was like, I just have to tell you, you are super cool. And I loved your talk. And I'm like getting ready to do this master's degree and I don't know what I want to do. And, you know, and Jen was just so sweet. And we just stayed in touch after that. And
we wrote something
yeah.
to
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
So you got me into a certain type of content, which was linguistics.
Yep.
And then we wrote a paper together. And then I started editing a journal in Ohio. And I invited Tabitha to be the copy editor. And then I ended up moving to Illinois. I've been here 3 years. And Tabitha agreed to also edit this open access national journal for us. So we're still working together. So it's amazing. And then I got invited to do the Innovate Springfield presentation. I was like, I got to have Tabitha because she's a true copy editor. I'm just an academic writer. So come on, Tabitha.
Yeah. And so as you can see, we have fun together. So
That's an awesome story. Thanks for sharing that.
yeah.
I'm totally that person that would just walk up to someone at a conference too and like, hi, can we be friends?
Right. I probably even said something like that. Like,
I don't know who
fun
else.
is important. I totally agree. So I'm in teacher ed. I prepare teachers and I tell my students all the time, like, if you're not having fun when you're learning, forget it.
right.
That is a
and
requirement.
that goes as a teacher too. I teach a first year experience class this semester, and I had a presenter yesterday who said, oh my gosh, you're so much fun with your class. And they actually talked and it was so cool. And I was like, oh, made me feel good.
Ladies, I'm sure that a lot of people have kind of 1 o'clock meetings. So
yes.
any last closing comments or thoughts from either one of you before we let these folks go back to their work lives?
Reach out if you want our help. You have our contact information, screenshot it. We're here for you. And be brave and take a risk. Fulfill your goal this week.
Yeah. And tell us how it went.
Yeah, we want to know.
Thank you so much, Christy, for inviting us. This was so much fun.
Yes, thank you.
Well, we couldn't be more thrilled that you guys could give us an hour of your day, especially with getting back to school, semester starting up, and remote versus classroom and all the other challenges that you guys are navigating. We just appreciate you so much and would love to have you back again. So, you know, as you're working on any new topics, keep in touch with us. Would love to have you get more involved, Jennifer, since you're local. So let's all be sure to stay in touch and appreciate all your insight. You guys are awesome.
Great.
So are you. We thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming and making us feel like, you know, we had something important to say.
You do.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
So down to earth and things that we can just take back today. So that's invaluable.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Hi,
Take care,
LaShonda.
everybody. Hi.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.